Hi there, and welcome back to another one of these modules. Right now what we're going to be getting into is taking a look at integrating technology and comics and how to go about that within your classroom. What you're looking at here are just a few of the programs we'll be speaking about, and I'll be presenting a little bit more on them. At the very end, everything's going to build up, so you'll be using programs like Sumo Paint, Audacity, Animoto, PowerPoint. You'll be using all of these programs, and at the end you'll have your students create somewhat of a digital portfolio. Don't worry about it just yet. You'll be able to find all of the different elements that pertain to this within the lesson plan. To talk to you a little bit about the rationale for integrating technology. Within the 21st century, we've come to find that our students are beginning to utilize technology on a daily basis. It's basically a part of their life. In this day and age, they're using cell phones, they're using MP3 players, digital cameras, laptops, and they're using them every day. So the rate that they're learning about technology in comparison to what most adults are learning about technology is very different. Also, they're working with programs like Facebook, MySpace, they're using Google, they're using Skype to communicate with friends and chat over the internet. They're also using different things like blogs, BearShare to download music. Basically, what integrating technology is all about is a shift in control of knowledge. Basically, when we teach history or science or math, the teacher who's at the front of the class running the whole thing is completely in charge of all of the knowledge. As we start integrating technology, we start to see a shift where the teacher might know quite a bit about the technology. Maybe if you're working with something like PowerPoint, you may know some really cool things about it, but as your students are working on it, you're going to see that they are going to learn at a tremendous rate, and the ideas that they're going to be cranking out and the ideas that they're going to be generating will be very different from what you may have started with. As we're able to use technology within our classrooms and within our computer labs, it truly allows for a higher level of critical thinking. Your students are able to work collaboratively, maybe in pairs, maybe in pods, however you may arrange them. Also, the single most important aspect and what makes all of this so beneficial is that your students are being able to use their creativity. We know that this is a skill that's kind of dying out. As we get into more of the higher stakes testing and standardized testing, things of that sort, through integrating technology, you're allowing your students the opportunity to be more creative with the work that they're doing. Also, in this day and age, we want our students to remain competitive. The whole technology aspect is definitely something that needs to be integrated there. As we're going through this whole process, I have a saying. I picked it up from one of my college professors. It really relates to technology, and here goes. As we're going through technology, you're going to find that you will know quite a bit of information, but your students are going to learn quite a bit more as they're working with it. From the time one student across the room has an idea, somebody else is going to know of that idea and how to implement and integrate it into whatever work they may be doing. I found that when my students are working with technology, the collaboration is extremely high, and the rate at which they learn is also tremendous. So here's the saying: it's all about the process, not the product. It's all about the process that your students are going through. Granted, some of them are going to create phenomenal products, others maybe not as phenomenal. It's about the process for your students. You want them to be able to open multiple windows, how to resize an image or record some sound. Those are all different ideas for you. Also, it's about your students being learners, not performers. You want them to learn as much as they can throughout this process. Yes, maybe they may perform somewhat in a sense for PowerPoint, or maybe with Animoto, the performance in the presentation, but ultimately it's about their learning. And the very last one, it's about exposing your students to different programs that they may not be exposed to otherwise. It's not about the mastery of the content. A few programs that your students are going to be working with throughout this include Sumo Paint. It's a great free online website that your students can go to create different images. It's a lot like a Photoshop. The only difference is it's free, absolutely free. And you can do just as many things, just about as you could with Photoshop. Another program that your students are going to be working with throughout this module is Audacity. It's getting more along the lines of editing and recording music or different sounds and creating your own music. Students will love this. Also, another one is Animoto. Animoto's another one of those websites. It's free to an extent, but the extent to which it's free fits our needs here. What your students can do is create these phenomenal videos or presentations. Basically, you can take a bunch of pictures, you can insert text in the form of dialogue, and it creates an entire video for you. It saves a lot of work, and the product is always very, very strong. And the last one being PowerPoint. I'm sure many of you have heard about it and probably used it. I'll give your students a few ideas for incorporating PowerPoint, and ultimately it all kind of culminates with somewhat of a digital portfolio where they'll have some of the work from Sumo Paint, some of the work from Audacity, some of the work from Animoto, and some of the work from PowerPoint. There are a few extra tidbits. I left them for the very end if you're interested. They include things like Prezi, a great free online resource for creating presentations. I've also added a few suggestions in regards to how to incorporate it. And that's the technology unit. We'll be getting right into all of these programs at this point. Thanks again, and take it easy. Hi, thanks again for coming right back here. We're about to get into two really good programs to use within the classroom, one of them being Sumo Paint, the other being Audacity. Sumo Paint is a phenomenal website. It's a free resource. You can use it to essentially create your own images. You can add text to those images, create really neat backgrounds. It's just like working with Photoshop, and the object here is to have your students working as, you could say, graphic designers. And the next program we'll be working with is Audacity. Here they're working more within the realm of creating music, so almost in a sense like a digital recorder. They can completely edit music to their liking, sounds, any actual things that they record on their own means. Thanks again. Hope you enjoy.
Hi there, so what you're taking a look at here is a basic website browser. I'm working with Firefox. Up here is the address bar. This is one of the very first things that's mentioned in lesson 1 of Sumo Paint. What I want to do is come up here, erase that. I'm simply going to go to Google and kind of get it going from here. So now I'm basically at Google's website, just www.google.com. From here, you want to introduce your students to the idea of an address bar. This is how you get around the internet up here. You can type in the address and it becomes much faster and a much more efficient and effective way to get from one website to the other. Or you can always come down here and type in whatever you're looking for as a search and find it from there. It takes a little more time. So if I was getting into the very first lesson, I would definitely introduce my students to the address bar. After that, I'd tell them to go to this website, www.sumopaint.com, and then I would hit enter, sumopaint.com. So what you're taking a look at now is Sumo Paint's main web page. This is kind of like the introduction page. It's a really great website for creating and editing images. You can be as creative as you want here. You can make things that are truly customized. This would basically be working essentially as maybe a photo editor would be working, or along the lines of working with creative imagery. This is great for advertisement work. So if you take a look here, I want to click on Open Sumo Paint. After you click on Open Sumo Paint, you're going to get this extra pop-up box, and Sumo Paint runs as an extra. You get this extra window that opens up, and this is essentially where you'll be working with Sumo Paint from. Just a real quick introduction to Sumo Paint. Off to the left here, you'll notice all of these different tools. You've got the rectangular select tool, the move tool, the magic wand, the lasso tool, and it goes on and on. Up here you'll find more of the editing stuff. One of my favorite things to go to is filters. Once we get an image in here, I'll show you exactly how to move on to those two things. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and I want to come right over here to my internet browser. I want to open up a new tab, and I'm going to go to a different website, which would be Bing.com. Once I'm here, I'm simply going to type in Revolutionary War, just something I'm kind of studying in class right now with my students. From Revolutionary War, if you notice up here, you'll find a few things: web, images, videos, news, more. Remember, with Sumo Paint, we're working solely with images and imagery. So I'm going to click on images here. I really kind of like this older Revolutionary War flag that symbolizes the original 13 colonies. It looks pretty great here. Now I'm going to come over here. See where it says see full-size image? What you want to do is click on that. And now it gives you the actual image itself. Up here in the address bar, now the website's changed a little bit. So now what I'm going to be doing is copying that link. So I'm going to copy it. If you notice right up here it says at the very end JPG. That's basically a computer logo for JPEG. It's essentially a picture file. So I'm going to copy it. So you would highlight it and copy it. After that, you'd come back to Sumo Paint. I'm going to come over here to where it says File. If you want to pull in a file, you can do it one of three ways. You can click on Open from a URL. That's basically opening it from a website. You can open it from your computer. Maybe you took a picture with a digital camera, put it on your computer. You would click here, find the file, and basically open it that way. Or if you had been working with something previously on Sumo Paint and you had a Sumo account, you could definitely open it through that means. For today, I'll show you how to open from a website. I clicked on, I'll do that one more time just so you can see, File, Open from a URL, Open from a website. I want to erase this http:// because I already copied that as I copied the address. Now I'm going to paste it in, and here what you want to do is click on Open. And it's going to take a few seconds to actually load it and put it in. Says it's at 100%, and here goes. I've got the image of the flag. Hey, but what do you know? It is a little too big for this screen. I don't like how it looks. So how do you go about changing the size of it? If you notice, right over to the right hand side of the screen where it says Info, Zoom, you'll kind of see a smaller sized version of the flag here. Right off to the right hand side here, I want to click on Set Zoom Level. Say I wanted to be working with it as a much larger size, or I really wanted to zoom in, you could do that. Say you're working with it and you want to work with something that's a little bit more manageable. I like to make it smaller, but say the whole arrow thing isn't working for you, you could always come in over here and type it in exactly how you see fit. Maybe 100%, maybe 75% could do just fine. So you've got your students at this point to understand the idea of an address bar. They've gone to Bing.com or any other website you want to use to find images. They've pulled in an image. They've actually gone to the file, open from a URL or a website. Now you're here. What do? You want to introduce your students to the idea of a filter. A filter is what makes it look a little bit cooler, so to say. So here I want to click on Stylize, Dithered Poster, and notice I get this really nice, interesting composition. Now it's very different from the original piece in regards to the colors. You can completely edit the colors as you see fit here. Maybe you don't like it this way, you can always change it to waves or lines, or maybe even make it in regards to having a radial degree there. After that, click on OK. Okay, so you know what? Now you've messed with it a little bit. You don't like it, simply go to Edit, Undo. Explore a different filter. Here's another pretty interesting one. I really like the Cube Designer. Now I've got this really interesting 3D visual model of the flag that I had. But you know what? I really don't like that one either, so I'm going to go undo. I'm going to come back up to filters, and this time I think I'm going to go with we'll say, let me look for the one I'm looking. Oh, here goes, edge detection, plastic edges. And I've clicked on plastic edges, and now this is what it's changed to. Now this is my new image. I'm getting into the second lesson here, which refers to the comic syncane. At the very beginning of the second lesson, you introduce your students to the idea of filters. Okay, so your students have gone through an address bar. They've learned how to import. Import means bring a picture or a photo into Sumo Paint now through File, open from URL or a website. And they also understand the idea of filters. Now, what I'm going to have my students do at this point is right over here at the bottom right hand corner where it says layers. I would simply click right on this. It's basically asking for like a new document. It says add a new layer. I would click that. Now I have this new layer. I want to click that. To explain layers real quick, think of it as if we were working with a magazine ad. Magazine ads might have something in the foreground. They might have something in the background. I'm simply, as I'm working with the layers, adding things to the foreground or the background. If we were to relate this to comics, it would be now like relating it to the foreground of the comic or to the background of the comic. Now I'm going to add a layer. I want to insert some text because I'm working now on a syncane. So I'd come over here to the tools section. I would now click on the T for text. Now I'm simply going to put it right over here. I'm going to make up a syncane here real quick. I'll say, and I'll drag it over so you can kind of see it here. I've got war followed by not good, and then fighting for freedom followed by courageous citizens. Oh. And then the last one will say just a random word, truth. So now I've got this really cool poster going on. I've got a background. I changed it up a little bit. And now I've also gone through and, hey, what do you know? I added a syncane. Syncane, real quickly, it's a poem that consists of 5 lines. And with the 5 lines, there's a pattern. The first line has 1 word. The second line has 2 words, if I could highlight the 2 words. The third line has 3 words. The fourth line again has 2 words. And the very last line, the 5th line, has 1 word. That's basically the structure and the pattern of it. So now, taking a look here, say I don't like the size of this, I can always come over here, make it slightly bigger. Now I can drag it over here, but say I don't like it also that it's left aligned, I can come right up here and align it in the center. Oh, but you know what? I don't like the font, so I'm going to change that. I would come up to font family, right over here. Say I'll go with one that I use often. We'll say, kind of like Papyrus here. So now I changed it up a little bit. The size still isn't good enough for me. I'm going to make it bold and increase that size a bit more. Now this is what I have. And now I have this really cool poster with a syncane on it, and it's all been done. Okay, so what do you do now? You can add a filter to this layer now. If you notice over here, I'm clicked on this layer, so I would simply come up, filters, maybe go to, we'll say distort with a pinch. And if you notice, it created a pinch effect to it where it pinched it at the top and the bottom and it made it slightly wider. But you know, I don't like that, so I want to go edit, undo again, and now I'm back to normal. Okay, so now, how do we take this idea and apply it to the comic? So your students have been experimenting with it at this point, and at this point I'm pretty certain that they would know quite a bit more about it than we would at this point. Typically they tend to learn really quickly, and you're going to find out that they really want to share their ideas with each other. Now the idea is to have them maybe take a photograph of their comic import it, that means bring it in to Sumo Paint, and begin to edit it, run it through filters, add a title, add their name, and at the same time they're including a whole nother sense to the comic, which incorporates utilizing digital technology. And for the very last project, what I wanted my students to do, and you can go ahead and have yours do the same, it's the 4th lesson in the lesson plan for Sumo Paint, is maybe to have them create some type of a lunch menu for the school. Maybe create grids on here, add in the text, the lunch, and then maybe turn it into somewhat of a competition and have the cafeteria employees kind of go through and select their favorite one. And now we're taking student work and we're beginning to informate it. We're beginning to have our students' work now symbolize something, mean something. Now it's not simply work that's confined to the classroom. It begins to now at this point affect things outside of the classroom. That's what we want to have our students do with technology. We want to give them the steps, give them a little bit of background, and let them fly with it. The whole idea here is it's not about the product, it's about the process. Our students, oftentimes, some of them may not have the best product, but the most important part is look what they're learning how to do. They're learning how to run through different web pages. They're learning how to edit text. They're learning how to import photos, and they're doing all of that in a very short amount of time. Thanks again, and I really hope that you enjoyed and learned a little bit about this idea of Sumo Paint. If you want more ideas for how to integrate Sumo Paint, you can always look up more tutorials on YouTube. Thanks again for your help, and I hope you enjoyed.
We've just spoken a little bit about Sumo Paint as well as Audacity. I hope you really enjoyed them. You'll find quite a bit more about them within the lesson plan section of the resources. Thanks again.